Your Honor, my client seeks a full division of assets because Mrs. Emma failed her most basic duty as a wife. She is sterile. She is broken, and she could not give him children. The word sterile didn't just hang in the air, it seeped into my skin, a public branding of a private agony. The courtroom didn't just go silent, it held its breath, waiting for me to shatter. Every eye that turned to me felt like a shard of glass, reflecting the broken woman I saw in the mirror every day. But my husband, Michael, was so busy performing his tragedy that he missed the flicker of steel in my eyes. He didn't know that the plain manila envelope in the judge's hand held the truth that would tear his perfect world apart. My name is Emma. I am 29 years old, and I have spent the last 3 years believing my body was a tomb for a family that would never be. 6 years ago, I was a pediatric nurse whose hands could soothe fevered brows and mend tiny scrapes. I met Michael at a hospital fundraiser. He was a whirlwind of charm and confidence, a real estate developer who built empires and made me feel like I was his greatest conquest. Our marriage after 8 months was a fairy tale. "Let me take care of you," he'd whispered, his voice a promise. "Let's focus on starting our family. My success is enough for both of us." So, I did the unthinkable. I laid down my stethoscope, the very symbol of my purpose, and handed him my independence. I gave him everything. For 3 years, we danced a macabre waltz of hope and despair. The 2-week wait wasn't just a countdown, it was a slow ascent up a crumbling cliff, only for a single line on a plastic stick to send me plummeting every time. With every negative test, Michael's love withered. His touch grew cold. "Maybe if you weren't so anxious," he'd sigh. "The doctor said I'm perfectly fine." The appointments became my personal crucifixions, with me strapped to the table of my own perceived failure. I wasn't a gold digger. I was a heart, desperately trying to love a man who was systematically unplugging me from the world. And then, I found the papers. They sat on his desk, cold and final. No discussion. No fight. Just a verdict. "Michael, what is this?" My voice was a threadbare whisper. He didn't even have the decency to look at me. "It's exactly what it looks like, Emma. I can't waste my life building a future with someone who is defective." Defective. The word didn't just burn, it incinerated the last shred of my self-worth. I soon discovered he had been building his real future with Amanda, his 24-year-old assistant. His family had been prepped. His mother's call that night was the final twist of the knife. "Finally, my son can have the family he deserves." The air left my lungs, and for a moment, I thought my heart had simply given up. The devastation was methodical. He moved out, leaving me in the echoing silence of a house that was never a home. He emptied our joint accounts, leaving me with a pitiful $200 and a mountain of debt. But the deepest cut was the email. A mass email to everyone we knew, titled, "Why I'm Moving On." It was a masterpiece of manipulation, clinically detailing my medical inadequacies. Friends I'd cried with vanished. My phone became a monument to my new invisibility. The court summons accused me of being a financial parasite, a dependent, a failure. In pretrial mediation, his lawyer, Stephen, presented a stack of my medical records. As you can see, Mrs. Emma visited fertility specialists 12 times. My client, however, required no treatment. I stared, a cold dread coiling in my stomach. Why had Michael always gone into the doctor's consultations alone? Why were my results always inconclusive? The first day of the trial, he walked in with Amanda. Her belly, round and proud, was a physical blow that stole the air from the room. "It's so sad when women can't accept biology," she said loudly in the hallway, her voice dripping with false pity. Michael deserves to be a father. And he stood there, letting her words lash me, a small, cruel smirk on his face. On the stand, he was magnificent. The grieving husband. Your Honor, I supported her through years of heartbreak, he said, his voice thick with a sorrow I now recognized as pure theater. I paid for everything. But a man needs a family. She couldn't give me that. I sat there, my hands clenched so tight my nails left half-moons in my palms. But I did not break. Because a memory, sharp and clear, pierced through the fog of his lies. 9 months ago. Dr. Lauren's hand on my arm, her eyes filled with a strange, conflicted pity. I'm so sorry about these results, Emma. I wish I could tell you more, but patient confidentiality prevents me from discussing your husband's file. At the time, I was too lost in my own grief to understand. But in that courtroom, the pieces clicked into a horrifying picture. Driven by a desperate, last-ditch hope, I requested my full medical file from the clinic. What I found didn't just change the case, it rewrote my history. My records, perfect. Normal. Healthy. But attached was a note from the clinic administrator, page 7B, husband's diagnosis, withheld from patient per spouse's written and repeated request. My blood ran cold. What was on page 7B? I called Rebecca, my old nursing school friend turned legal shark. Her voice was grim as she reviewed it. Emma, he's not just leaving you. He's trying to bury you. But he just handed us a shovel. We fought. The judge initially denied our motion, but Rebecca, my fierce angel of justice, refused to back down. Your Honor, if he is using medical condition as a sword to destroy her, he cannot then use privacy as a shield to protect himself. We had more. I had kept every cruel text, every voicemail where he called me a burden. And Rebecca had secured a sealed testimony from Dr. Lauren, who could no longer stomach being a silent witness to his abuse. The final hearing arrived. Michael was smug in a tailored suit, Amanda preening beside him. I wore a simple blue dress, the color of truth and clarity. Judge William entered, that fateful envelope in his hand. Before we conclude, he began, his voice low and grave, I have reviewed evidence submitted under seal. Mr. Michael, you testified under oath that your wife was sterile. Is that your testimony? Yes, Your Honor, Michael said, though a flicker of fear was in his eyes. The judge's gaze could have frozen hell. These records state that Mrs. Emma has no physiological barriers to conception. Her fertility is, and always has been, normal. A murmur rippled through the room. Michael paled. However, the judge's voice boomed, cutting through the noise, your records, Mr. Michael, tell a different story. You were diagnosed with severe male factor infertility 4 years ago. You were informed. You specifically requested this information be withheld from your wife. And you refused all treatment. The gasps were like a wave. I stood, my body trembling not with fear, but with a lifetime of released anguish. You knew? The words tore from my throat, raw and broken. For 4 years, you looked me in the eye while I blamed myself? You let me mourn a child I thought my body could never hold, when it was you. You are the reason. Tears I had held back for years finally fell, but they were not tears of defeat. They were tears of purging, washing away his lies. Your Honor, this is, Stephen tried. Sit down. The judge's command was absolute. Rebecca stood. We have more, Your Honor. She displayed the text messages on the screen for all to see, Michael's plan to make me the scapegoat for his affair and his unborn child. The timeline of Amanda's pregnancy proved it all began while he was still sharing my bed. The man I had loved was a carefully constructed fiction. Judge Williams' final ruling was a thunderclap of justice. Full financial disclosure. My assets restored. A path to sue for damages. But his words were the true victory. This court finds a pattern of deliberate and malicious deception, profound emotional abuse, and financial cruelty. I walked out of the courthouse, and the sun on my face felt like a benediction. It was the first day of my real life. Michael stood by his car, his perfect world in ruins, Amanda sobbing beside him. He tried to approach me, to offer some hollow apology. "Emma, I'm sorry, I never." "Stop," I said, my voice quiet but absolute. "You meant every single word. But your greatest failure was underestimating me. You thought your lies defined me. But they only hid the strength you could never break." I turned and walked away, and I did not look back. The settlement allowed me to reclaim my life, but the real victory was reclaiming myself. I called my old supervisor and was welcomed back with open arms to the pediatric ICU. I found a small apartment. It was modest, but it was mine. Every square foot was free of his shadow. If you have ever been forced to carry a weight that was never yours to bear, if you have ever been told you are defective, then you know the unique silence that comes with that pain. You are not alone. Where are you reading this from? Tell me your city. Have you ever had to stand for the truth when the whole world believed a beautiful, convenient lie? I am listening. I read every single one.